This is what made Studio Fix a legend. What's the difference between the original MAC Studio Fix and the new MAC Studio Fix? Let's evaluate and do a wear test.
Wear test.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. MAC removed talc from one of the world's best-selling powder foundations on the market. But it's not just about talc, even though I feel like the internet has made it only about talc. Let's start with what made the original Studio Fix so iconic in the first place. I'm gonna do a single swipe. Look at this. High coverage, driven predominantly by talc. The original Studio Fix delivers higher single stroke coverage compared to the new Studio Fix. Talc is known to be an opacifying agent, which means it delivers coverage and it's an inexpensive raw material, and it's why it's been loved for so long. Our talc-free version, let's do the same thing. New sponge, let's go. This is usually what happens when you remove talc. You will not get single stroke coverage. However, for somebody like me, that's not a bad thing. But I just added another layer of the new Studio Fix. I can achieve high levels of coverage. Question becomes, is that a deal breaker for you? Do you need it to be instant the second that you put it on? That's up to you. Let me do the rest of my face. We're gonna go one side old Studio Fix, one side new. This is what's called a split face evaluation. You traditionally would get 8 hours of wear with the original Studio Fix. The claim of the new Studio Fix, getting a 24-hour wear.
That's wild.
So you might be wondering, well, how is that achievable? You treat your pigments with what's called a hydrophobic surface. They're wrapping the pigment particle with a surface that hates water, which means it's gonna repel it, which means this is now a waterproof powder. Going to technically wear for you longer. Guaranteed that is a next generation compared to what's inside the Studio Fix original. That might be important to you. That may not be important to you. If I'm doing a side-by-side comparison to touch these powders, the new Studio Fix is gonna feel a little creamier. The reason that you're gonna get that creamier texture, you have what's called micronized particles in here. There's also more silica, which is more of a texturizing agent. Silica spheres. Whoever's smoother in between the friction of your fingers, also gonna be who's smoother on your face. Who do you think is smoother on my face? Old or new?
I feel like you have more coverage with the old one, that's for sure.
Definitely more coverage driven by the talc. Natural matte finish here in the new Studio Fix. We know that I can build up both of these powders and the coverage.
Both sides look really good.
Right. Which side feels better? Right now, my new Studio Fix side feels lighter. This side is still buildable. Definitely creamier. Is this big upgrade? Is it actually going to prevent caking or cracking at the 8-hour mark that I was experiencing with my original Studio Fix? There's only one way to find out.
Wear test, wear test.
Here are my thoughts as a beauty product developer. When I do a split face evaluation as a beauty product developer, I'm looking for texture around my pore. Where am I seeing shine? Who controlled shine better? Is there cracking? Notoriously, the original Studio Fix did crack. What about color trueness? Which one looks more like my skin as opposed to it's just sitting on top? I've even blown my nose. What's going on in my nose area? From an evaluation standpoint, while I have seen absolute upgrades in terms of new renovated powder, I do understand why people are still madly in love with the original and the talc. I do understand why they're upset. We did lose coverage, but we did gain more of a seamless experience. If you look at my blurred effect here on the pores, I do appear shiny here, equal parts shiny on both sides. This just is my T-zone, so it's completely normal. Real life evaluations are the best, and the conclusions I have made here, we are getting a modern upgrade driven by 3 key things inside this formula that is pushing us into more of a natural look, more of a realistic finish on skin versus more of a I look like I'm wearing makeup with the original Studio Fix, driven by the heavy opacity and coverage of the talc. The decision, my beauty queens, is always yours about what your needs are. Are talc-based powders still on the market that you can buy that will give you a similar effect? It doesn't negate the fact that this is a renovation that's a more modernized approach and a fresher take on where makeup is going. Doesn't mean everyone's gonna love this powder, but I do believe this has broader appeal, because even somebody like myself who isn't a traditional powder foundation wearer, I would actually consider using this in the summer months. It surprised me. I'd love to hear about what everyone's choosing, and are we worried about future talc reformulations?